Alright, welcome back to the channel, everybody. First of all, I want to thank Dick Pritchett Real Estate for having these cams for us to watch. Thank you very much. Let's first of all talk about the bike I'm on today. We're on the Ride 1 Up, Rev 1. I do a little more aggressive ride today. I don't normally ride this aggressively, but we had to see what the new bike would do. If you watch the speedometer, you'll see that I hit some speeds of 35 miles per hour and a top speed of 37.1. It's a very nice bike. I like it a lot. Alright, so let's get into the week. It was a very exciting week at the Nest site. A lot of action again. So we're going to start with Sunday, 3/19. M15 is in the attic and at 7 a.m. and I don't see an intruder around with him. M15 leaves at around 7:15 a.m. M15 returns at 10 o'clock with a UFO. 21 gets most of that UFO. 22 got a little bit. Then he returns again at 10:28 with another UFO, which was kind of small. 21 and 22 both get bites of that. And then he returns again at 11:18 with a fish. 21 gets the fish and starts eating. M15 returns right back at 11:39 with another fish. 21 and 22 have a little bit of a tug of war over that fish. 21 wins the tug of war, and of course he now has two fish over there in his stash. He's eating on the first one. 22 is able to steal one of the fish and starts eating. So both E's are eating at the same time. I always like that when they're both eating at the same time. 21 eats all of its fish and 22 eats all of its fish. So they both had pretty good fish breakfast. Then M15 returns at 1:14 with another fish. 21 and 22 have a little fight over that fish, but 21 wins the fight and begins to eat the fish. 22 does get some scraps. Then M15 returns at 1:38 p.m. with a fish. 22 gets that fish and he starts to eat. And he eats all of that fish, pretty much so most of it. 21 does steal a little bit and eat the scraps. M15 is back at the Nest site around 7:20. It does rain a little bit that day. They get a little bit of a bath out of it, not much. I see M15 and the intruder in the nest tree about 7:45, and he's in the attic at 7:52 p.m. But that's going to change. He's not been staying the night after Sunday. So that brings us to Monday. Early in the morning, M15 gets struck by an owl twice. Once at 12:52 a.m. and another time at around 2 o'clock a.m. He is still in the attic perch at 7 a.m. He heads off at about 7:20. He returns at 12:33 with a fish. There's a tug-of-war fight between 21 and 22. 21 wins the fight and starts eating on the fish. 22 pretty much so got nada out of that fish. Then M15 returns at 2:59 with a fish. Another tug-of-war fight ensued. 21 wins the fish and starts eating it. 22 does get some leftovers and stole a couple bites. M15 returned at 4:17 with a UFO. 22 got that UFO and he sucked the whole thing down in one scarf. Wasn't huge. It was a good bite though. I see M15 and the intruder back at the nest tree around 7 p.m. M15 is in the attic at 8 p.m. The intruder leaves, pretty much so, right after he hit the attic, she left. M15 again gets struck by an owl twice. Once at 11:57 p.m. and then at 1:55 a.m. So these owl strikes are getting ridiculous. And of course the kids are going to start getting struck by these owls sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. Let's hope they don't get knocked out of the nest. That brings us to Tuesday, 3/21. I see M15 in the attic. He's alone. He flies off about 7:08 to start the day. M15 returns around 11:03. It looked like he had a rabbit carcass. 21 and 22 fight over the carcass, but they both end up getting some rabbit. They kind of split the carcass in two when they were tug-of-warring over it, and they both kind of got a half of it and ate on it. And I see M15 return with an intruder at 3:20 with a fish. 22 mantles over that fish and gets it. He starts to eat. 21 tries to steal the fish. They get in a tug-of-war. 21 wins the tug-of-war and eats the fish. M15 returns at 4:25 with a fish. 22 gets the fish and starts eating, and he gets that fish. At around 5:04 p.m. I see 22 branching and getting some big air. This is at 73 days old, so
I like your
they're doing real well. Then I see M15 return at 6:42 with a fish. 22 gets that fish and starts eating. We're starting to see a little bit of a change here coming around. We'll see that in the next couple of days. And then I see M15 that he has not returned to the nest tree, and it's 9:05 p.m. He does not return that evening. He's not there in the morning. And at 2:28 a.m., 22 gets struck by an owl. It knocks him back in the nest. Luckily, it does not knock him out of the nest. That's the other thing. I think we're at a pretty good point here now where we've kind of decided that I believe 21 is a female and 22 is probably a male. Pretty sure 21's a female. 22 could be a male. Normally, though, they have a male and a female. All right, so that brings us to Wednesday, 3/22. M15's has not returned to the nest that whole night or morning. He does return in the morning, though, about 11:30 a.m. I see him up in the nest tree. It looked like to me that there was a theft that took place. I see the intruder on the ground eating something, and as I rewinded back, there was a theft. She basically intercepted him trying to go to the nest and drug him down to the ground and took his food. He does fly down and get the leftovers and bring him to the nest. So, let me say this too. When he tries to come back to the nest, he gets robbed by an intruder. I still give him credit for a back and forth to the nest. Okay, he's still trying to do his job. Then M15 returns at 1:03 with a fish. They have a big fight over this fish, and 22 wins the fight and gets the fish. This is the first time I've seen 22 win one of the battles and get the food, and he eats the fish. 21 got nothing. I've not seen that happen. M15 returns at 7:41 with a UFO. 22 gets in a fight with 21, but 21 keeps the prey and eats it. It wasn't much. This was kind of a slow food day. I see M15 at the pond about 7:45 drinking water. He's up in the attic perch at 7:58, but he doesn't stay. He flies off immediately after that about 7:59 p.m. and he's gone for the night. So that brings us to Thursday. Thursday's a pretty exciting day. Ems makes it back and forth to the nest several times. He is in the attic perch at 7 a.m. when I get up. He leaves at 7:05, so he had returned overnight. That's something else that's kind of weird. These eagles that are flying around at night, that's kind of unusual behavior. They don't see very good at night. They see about like we do. Alright, so M15 and an intruder returned at 8:12 with a bird. It was a white ibis bird. Here again, 22 gets the bird and is eating it. 21 tries to steal the bird. He has no luck, or she has no luck. 22 continues to eat. 21 does finally get the carcass, but I would say 22 had already ate most of it. But they both got some bird. 22 got the most though. Then M15 returns at 10:17 with a fish. 22 gets that fish and starts eating. I think y'all can see the change that's going on here. 22 is starting to get some of the prey items and keep them. Okay, so at 10:44, M15 returns with a fish. 22 gets the fish and starts eating. 21 gets the leftover carcass. At 11:16, M15 returns with a fish. 21 does get this fish and starts eating. Alright, 21 eats on that fish for a while, but leaves it, and 22 gets it, and they both get about half and half of that fish. M15 returns at 12:48 with a fish. 22 gets the fish and starts eating. 22 eats some of that fish, but he leaves the carcass in the nest. It just sits in the nest. 22 starts to get a little aggressive with 21 and give 21 a little business. Kind of made me laugh. Alright. At 7 p.m., 22 starts eating on that fish carcass from earlier. At 6:55 p.m., M15 returns with another fish. 22 gets and starts to eat. So you can get the picture here. There's a couple fish. Both birds are kind of eating. I don't really know what's going on with 21. It seems like once 21 gets a full belly early, 21's kind of done eating for the day. I see M15 at the pond bathing and drinking at around 7:05. He hits up in the nest tree about 7:15, but he leaves at 7:46. And then a little after 12 a.m., 22 gets struck by an owl. Luckily, these owl strikes aren't hurting them. Let's just hope that continues, that these owl strikes don't do any serious damage to these poor kids. I just can't tell you how frustrating it is to watch that. You know, we're seeing that in the birds in Louisiana too are getting struck by owls. So I think I saw a video where one of those eaglets had gotten struck 16 times in 40 minutes. That's ridiculous. All right, so that brings us to Friday. Friday's another pretty good day. M15 is not in the nest tree in the morning, and he probably wasn't there all night. M15 returns at 10:09 with a fish. 22 gets that fish and starts eating. 21 tries to steal the fish, and he has no luck. 22 eats on. 21 does get some of the leftovers that 22 didn't eat. M15 returns with a true intruder, and she attacks M15 and spirals him to the ground. I'm telling y'all, she could have killed him. She could have killed him. Alright? She let go of him about 2 or 3 feet above the ground while he was upside down, and he barely spun himself around upright. All this over a stupid turtle cart. Stupid turtle. Okay? All this aggressiveness. And she steals the turtle, flies off, and starts eating it. She doesn't even eat that much of the turtle because he ends up bringing it back to the nest at about 12:04. Alright, 22 and 21 get in a fight over it. 21 wins the fight and starts eating on the turtle. 22 tries to steal it once or twice but doesn't have any luck. 21 eats on. Then 21 gets done with the carcass and 22 gets it and starts eating some of the leftovers. There was still some good meat left on it. And they picked back and forth on that carcass for a while. Then M15 returned at 5:08 with a fish. 22 got the fish and started eating. There's a small fight for the fish, but 22 keeps it and keeps eating. Then M15 returns at 5:53 with a fish. 22 mantles and he gets the fish and starts to eat. But he's getting pretty full. He leaves the fish and lets 21 have it. 21 eats the fish. I see M15 in the nest tree about 7:39 p.m. Then he goes to the attic at 7:46, but he flies off again about 7:55. I just wanted to make a note for y'all that up to Friday evening, he has made 26 trips back and forth to the nest with food items. I'd say that's pretty good for a single parent. That brings us to Saturday. Saturday's also another really good day for him. I don't see M in the nest tree at 7 a.m., but I do hear M squawking and talking to the kids about 7:40. I didn't have Cam 3 on at 7:40 a.m. I only had the nest kid. But I could hear him up there talking to the kids. Okay, so M15 returns for the first time at 10:06. It looked like it was a fish, maybe partially eaten. 21 gets that fish and starts eating. Then M15 returns at 10:34 with a UFO. It also looked like a fish. 22 mantles and he gets the fish, but 21 steals that fish and eats it. Then M15 returns with an intruder at 10:58 with a fish. 22 gets that fish and he starts eating on the fish for a while. He can't finish that fish. There's too much there. 21 takes over. And they go back and forth eating on that fish for a while. Then at 1:14, M15 returns again with a fish. 22 mantles over the fish and he gets it. He starts eating. This looks like a good size catfish or something like that. 22 eats all of it. And 21 picks it, the leftover carcass, not much there. Then at 1:26 p.m. M15 returns with an intruder chasing him around. She's chasing after him, they're flying around the pond. He ends up dropping the prey, it looked like a fish, and she stole it. Okay? Of course, typical. At least she didn't drag him to the ground. At least he just dropped it and gave it to her. Then M15 returns again at 3:54 with a fish. 21 gets the fish, but 22 steals it, starts to eat. 21 22 starts giving 21 some business when 22 gets too close, like she's going to try to steal it. Okay, 21 comes back and does try to steal the fish, but 22 whoops that ass. Okay, and 22 keeps eating on that fish. Okay, then M15 returns at 4:33 with a fish. 22 gets new fish, and 21 starts eating on the previous fish. And so both birds are eating on fish now, and I love it when they're both eating. That brings a smile to my face. They kind of go back and forth eating on the fish. That's pretty much so it for the night. I don't see Dad doesn't come back the rest of the night. Until I went to bed, there were no owl strikes. Nothing had happened. We're still right on track for these kids to fly. As a matter of fact, I think 21 probably can fly, and 22 might be able to fly. It's everything I'm researched. It says 10 to 12 weeks they can fly. It doesn't say they necessarily will fly at 10 to 12 weeks, but they can. I also wanted to talk about a video I watched. It was a bald eagle video, and it was a pair of eagles that had a red-tailed hawklet in their nest. They raised this red-tailed hawklet to fledge. And I just thought that was just such an amazing video. There's several theories on how the hawklet got in the nest. One is that a hawk laid the eggs in the nest. Hawks don't do that. Hawks aren't cuckoos or cowbirds. They don't lay eggs in other birds' nests. Then the other theory is that the eagles captured a female and she laid an egg in the nest before she died. That's a good theory, but that one time there were 2 hawklets in the nest. One of them ended up disappearing. They don't know whether they got ate. The theory is that the other hawklet knocked it out of the nest and that it probably got ate by a predator, because at one time the eagles were raising 2 hawklets. Then the other theory is that the females robbed the hawk's nest and brought the babies back with the intention of feeding them to their kids. And the hawklets were begging the parents for food so bad that the instinct to kill them and eat them went away, and the instinct to raise them took over. I buy that theory. Birds of prey have a very, very, very big instinct to raise their young. And birds of prey will raise other young that aren't their own. We know owls will foster other owls, and birds of prey will do the same thing. A little surprising. I mean, what is that hawk going to think when he gets older? Is he going to think he's an eagle, or is he going to think he's a hawk? Well, guess what, y'all? They've seen him around the beach foraging for fish. So he is kind of acting like an eagle, but they've also seen him hunting squirrel in the neighborhood and stuff like that. So it's just an amazing video. I really recommend it. I've never seen anything like it. There are other reports of eagles doing this, raising hawks in their nest. I'm sure that it starts off with them going to get the hawk to eat it, the hawklet to bring it and feed it to its kids. And remember that birds don't always kill the prey. There's several videos of eagles and other birds of prey where they bring a prey item back to the nest and the prey item flies off the nest or crawls off the nest. So that's not uncommon for the birds to bring prey back alive. But that's just a miraculous video. It's unbelievable to watch. Let's just hope that poor red-tailed hawk, when it gets older, doesn't go up and try to mate with a bald eagle, because the bald eagle's going to kill it. Okay, let's hope it realizes it's a red-tailed hawk. That's going to do it for this week. I hope you like this video. Please subscribe. I love it when you do that. Leave me some comments. I hope you like the new bike. I do. It's really fast. It's really powerful. It's got some great brakes, some great components, great suspension. It's just an all-around fun bike. I'm going to enjoy taking that out on some group rides and take it to the lake and have some fun. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, leave a subscribe, and leave a comment. We'll see you on the next one.